6 most disturbing internet trends.
June 3rd, 2022, an 18-year-old teen tragically passed away after falling in front of a truck in Tangerang, Indonesia. However, what made this particular incident stand out among the dozens of traffic-related deaths on Indonesian roads every day was that this was not an accident. Instead, this was the result of one of the most disturbing internet trends that was sweeping the country during this time. It had actually started back in 2021, but exploded in popularity in mid-2022.
Of course, we have a trend for everything. We have a trend for everything. We have a trend even for trend. Oh, I kind of fumbled that. We also have a trend for dying. You know what? The humanity race does not amaze me at all.
The trend was called the Malaikat Maut Challenge, or the Angel of Death Challenge in English. It involved TikTokers, mainly teenagers, playing a game
all
with
for
oncoming
views,
traffic, particularly loaded trucks. Their goal was to run out onto a busy street in front of a truck, hope it stops before hitting them without flinching, and post the video of the stunt online. But completing this dangerous challenge successfully was a lot harder than many of its unfortunate participants realized. Most of them jumped onto the road as the truck got extremely close, giving the driver virtually no time to notice them and apply the brakes. But even when drivers had enough time to see the kids performing these stunts, they still couldn't slow down in time to prevent tragedy. Trucks usually carry heavy cargo, and that weight doesn't stop on a dime. The heavier the load, the longer the braking distance, sometimes stretching dozens of meters even after the brakes are fully pressed. So by the time the drivers reacted, it was already too late. Not to mention the fact that this trend was also putting the truck drivers at risk, both physically and psychologically. For one of these cases, involving a 14-year-old participating in this challenge, the driver fled the scene, likely out of fear of facing criminal charges. If he had instead stopped and cooperated, the footage of the teenager's friends captured for TikTok would have proven his innocence. But by running away, he turned himself into a hit-and-run suspect, potentially jeopardizing his job and even his freedom depending on the charges he received. Following the incident...
Right, here's the big question now. Let's say you were in this situation, right, yeah? You're driving the truck, just driving, bang! You run over a 12-year-old kid. Are you running or are you staying? Me? I think, you know what? I don't know.
In Tangerang, Indonesian police acted quickly to prevent further tragedies. They managed to stop 14 more kids from attempting the same dangerous stunt that very day and continued to monitor the city over the upcoming months. However, the attempts in Tangerang, Indonesia were only a small part of the global trend that cost several lives and left many others with life-altering injuries over the next year. Thankfully, TikTok eventually stepped in and removed all content related to the Angel of Death challenge. And since social media validation was the main reason participants took part in this dangerous trend, the platform's ban caused it to gradually fade into obscurity.
Good. What a stupid trend. Who even came up with that trend?
Happy slapping.
Why would you want to die? What?
On the 21st of January 2005, the Tez magazine in the UK reported on a new trend spreading rapidly across the country, something they referred to as happy slapping. Contrary to its name, however, the trend was anything but happy. In essence, it involved people, often young adults or teenagers, going up to a random person, slapping them, recording their shocked reaction, and then sharing that video with others.
No way.
Personal camcorders and phones with cameras were becoming a lot more accessible during this time.
Oh my god, do this to me. Do this to me. Do this to me. I am throwing hands. I don't care how old you are.
The attackers to record their crime and share it as something funny. These happy slapping videos were shared all over the internet for the whole world to see. As for how this trend initially started, some reports from the time linked them to violent TV shows like Jackass and Dirty Sanchez. A big difference between these shows and the happy slapping videos, however, was that everyone on TV consented to enduring the pain on camera. The people filming happy slapping videos, on the other hand, usually targeted complete strangers and bystanders for what they perceived as social clout. As a media expert from that time explained it, "What we see the kids watching these shows doing is thinking, well, maybe I could stage my own scenes of pain and humiliation along these lines. Then with happy slapping, people are drawn in as random victims rather than the kind of voluntary performances we get in the shows that are being copied. I think happy slapping has become a shortcut in the eyes of the slappers to fame and notoriety among the people who see the images circulated on the web or sent to them via their mobile phones." And while that was already bad enough on its own, things quickly took an even darker turn. As time went on, the recordings became increasingly violent, likely in an effort to outdo one another and stand out in the sea of dozens, if not hundreds, of similar videos.
What do you think was gonna happen? What did you think was gonna happen? You think a random stranger, if you go ahead and slap him, he's just gonna let you slap him and just walk away? Come on. Of course not.
Things went from humiliating
What a
but physically
stupid trend.
harmless slaps to coordinated attacks resulting in permanent
Annoying
injuries.
trends, Lilo.
One of the worst cases of this happened on August 31st, 2009 in South London. A 67-year-old retired care worker
not
named
London.
Ekram Haq left the mosque on Church Lane in Tooting, England after the evening prayer, where he was then approached by two boys, 15-year-old Hamza Lazai and 16-year-old Leon Elcock, wanting to make a happy slapping video. Things quickly spiraled out of control as neither of them held back, resulting in Ekram passing away a week later from a severe head injury he received during the incident. The two were eventually identified and arrested after police reviewed CCTV footage from a nearby camera. Both pled guilty to manslaughter, with Leon receiving a 4.5-year sentence and Hamza sentenced to 3.5 years in prison.
How do you kill
The happy
someone?
slapping trend as a whole eventually faded away after the UK and the surrounding countries started treating it as a significant threat to public safety, with France even criminalizing it and giving it a punishment of up to 5 years in prison. Skullbreaker Challenge.
Oh my god, that doesn't even sound good.
On
That doesn't
February
even sound good.
14th, 2020, 12-year-old Parker Smith was invited by his friends to film what seemed like a harmless jumping contest with them. He agreed, and on camera jumped the highest he could, but instead of landing safely on his feet, he fell backward and fractured his right arm. He was rushed to the hospital immediately and fortunately made a full recovery over the following weeks.
Why?
However, what seemed like
Why?
a simple accident turned out to be part of a disturbing internet trend his two friends were attempting to recreate. The so-called Skullbreaker Challenge required 3 people to stand in a line and somehow convince the person in the middle to jump. As soon as they did, the two on the outside swept the legs of the one in the middle who was usually unaware of what was about to happen. This caused them to fall backward, usually on their head, which is where the trend got its name from.
Oh my
It
God.
started earlier that year after a video of 2 students from Spain doing it on their friend went viral on social media platforms like TikTok, prompting countless imitators to try and recreate its success. And, as you might imagine, the results were disastrous, with Parker being one of the lucky ones for walking away with just a fractured arm. Many others were knocked unconscious by the impact, suffered from severe concussions, and some even needed multiple stitches across their skull and face. The most devastating of these incidents happened on January 24, 2020 in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, when a group of 7th graders attempted the challenge in school. Unfortunately, the victim fell way too hard on their head, causing them to lose consciousness and have a seizure. He luckily survived the incident and eventually recovered without any permanent head trauma. However, his initial condition was bad enough that authorities arrested the other 2 13-year-old boys. They were charged with 3rd-degree aggravated assault and 3rd-degree endangering an injured victim since the harm they caused was mostly intentional.
I just feel like every time we get a new generation growing up, they come up with even more weird and fucked up ideas, bro. I'm right, don't I? I'm right.
Now, I wasn't able
Agree
to
with
find
me.
any reports on whether the charges were dropped or not, but even if they were, being arrested for attempting a dangerous internet challenge goes to show just how dangerous it can be. TikTok also stepped in and banned all videos of this challenge on their platform. Unfortunately, once something is on the internet, it never truly goes away, as evident from 2 girls finding videos of the Skullbreaker Challenge, attempting it on one of their classmates, injuring them, and getting charged for it in November 2022, more than 2.5 years after the original fad ended. Fortunately, there haven't been many reports of kids getting injured because of this challenge ever since.
Wow. What a stupid idea, bro.
Kia Challenge.
Key.
Near the end of 2020 and throughout 2021, authorities in Milwaukee, Wisconsin noticed a significant increase in car theft. What made this even stranger was the fact that the majority of these stolen vehicles were either from Kia or Hyundai, with theft of these particular cars doubling or even tripling
Why?
in some areas compared to previous years. However, before investigators could determine the cause of this surge, the situation spiraled beyond their control in ways they could have never expected. Put simply, stealing Kia and Hyundai cars became an internet trend called the Kia Challenge. It began on July 12, 2022, when a video captioned "Kia Boys" went viral for demonstrating just how easy it was to steal Kia and Hyundai cars manufactured between 2011 and 2021. All a thief needed was a screwdriver and any regular USB cable, since the connector just so happened to be the perfect size and shape to jumpstart the vehicle.
Oh, wow.
This was a
No
major
way.
hardware-level security flaw in dozens of car models, and there was no permanent way to fix the problem either. Now, the original Kia Boys video was eventually taken down by TikTok, but the information was already out there and it already sparked the Kia Challenge. Teenagers across the US started breaking into Kias and Hyundais and posting their stunts on social media to participate in the challenge. While the stolen cars caused a massive financial burden for hundreds of innocent residents, the real danger of the Kia challenge came from what many of the thieves did once they had taken control of the vehicles.
Oh, another thing. It's wonderful. Committing a crime is a trend now. Apparently, people. I don't know that.
Since many of them had no intention of actually profiting off the stolen
Where's the
cars
brain?
and were only doing it for the internet,
Where's the
they
brain?
began taking the cars for reckless joyrides around town, putting their lives and the lives of everyone else on the road in extreme danger. One of these joyrides led to a police chase, which eventually ended with the out-of-control car slamming into the concrete barrier and the teenagers who stole the car trying to
Where are
flee
you
on
running?
foot.
Where are you
The most
running?
disturbing of these incidents occurred in Buffalo, New York in
Where you gonna
October
run?
2022, where a stolen Kia ride ended in a fatal crash, taking the lives of 4 teenagers. In total, the Kia challenge resulted in the loss of 8 lives before the disturbing trend was shut down by TikTok and other social platforms. Kia and Hyundai also had to settle a class action lawsuit for $200 million over the dangerously lax security in their cars. Car surfing.
What?
Car surfing, or riding
Oh
on
my
the outside of a
God.
car as if it were a surfboard, has existed as a trend long before modern social media was even a thing.
my God.
It started gaining popularity in the early 1990s, compelling teenagers and young adults to
Bro,
speed down the
what am I
highway while
watching?
precariously balancing
What am I
themselves on
watching?
top. Today, most modern cars don't have much to hang on to on the outside to improve aerodynamics, which makes this already high-risk activity even more deadly. It only takes one small slip for even the most daring car surfer to fall into the road. Something that's evident from a 2008 CDC report, which revealed that 58 people lost their lives while engaging in car surfing, and 41 others were severely injured since 1990. Unfortunately, the rise of social media and the desire to go viral with outrageous stunts have only driven that number higher ever since. Most recently, in May 2023, a 16-year-old boy tragically lost his life while car surfing out the back window of a car when the vehicle lost control and rolled over. He would have almost certainly kept his life if he were in his seat with a seatbelt. Sadly, the car surfing trend is just as alive today as it
No
was
way.
3 decades ago, and shows no signs of fading away anytime soon.
What do you get out of this? What do you get out of this? By doing this, what do you get
Blackout
out?
Challenge.
Blackout.
The Blackout Challenge has existed long before social media. The goal in this challenge is to achieve a brief high that comes from cutting off oxygen to the brain by intentionally suffocating until you lose consciousness. However, while many assume that blacking out from lack of oxygen is perfectly safe in the long run, that couldn't be further from the truth. The rewarding high in this challenge...
Bro, these trends are pissing me off. What? Why?